Wizards of the Coast has been lost to us for a very long time, and they're one of the few companies I genuinely do not believe could be saved no matter what they did. And now we're finding out that Dragon Age the Veilguards director Corrine Busche has been hired by Wizards of the Coast for an upcoming game. Before I get into the topic, though, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I used to really love Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. My channel started off as a kind of TCG channel, and I used to stream Magic the Gathering Arena, and I used to talk a lot about D&D, but Wizards of the Coast has been lost for a very long time, and they are not savable in any way, shape, or form. And every single time they talk about their plans for their games, they just continue to prove that they do not want to listen to us because they genuinely believe that chasing the modern audience is the way to go, and they're filled to the brim with activists. But now we're finding out that in a move that will no doubt raise eyebrows throughout the entire gaming community, I've been tipped off by an insider that Wizards of the Coast has quietly hired Corrine Busche, the failed director of Dragon Age the Veilguard, to work at their newly formed studio, Skeleton Key, which will not come as much of a surprise to anybody. Dragon Age the Veilguard only had its DEI going for it, and that is the only thing that these people at Wizards of the Coast care about. They just care about hiring people that share their opinions, that will push the narratives they want to be pushed in content, and Corrine Busche would fit in perfectly there. Now, this is not 100% confirmed, but it does seem like it could be the case. Of course, take everything with a grain of salt until somebody announces it, but why else would Corrine Busche, according to them, voluntarily leave one of the once biggest companies within the industry, BioWare, to go and work somewhere else? Unless, of course, this person felt like they would be a better fit elsewhere. Now, we do know that BioWare has downsized massively over the last couple of weeks. The whole entire writing team behind Veilguard is gone, and it seems like BioWare's last hope is truly going to be the next Mass Effect game. But Corrine Busche has allegedly been hired to work at this newly formed studio, Skeleton Key. Now, according to an anonymous source inside WotC, Busche's hiring wasn't announced publicly, but my exclusive source said specifically, "I just heard a rumor that Corrine Busche was hired on at Skeleton Key, but sure enough, I checked my team's org chart, and they are there." So Wizards of the Coast over the years has done a lot of really shady shit, and I've talked about them a lot and all of the terrible decisions they've made, but one that was major that happened back in 2022 was Sam Maggs. Sam Maggs is a woman who during Gamergate 1 said that she was graped in GTA 5, and she went on this like hate campaign against video games that have any form of like sexual violence in them, which of course is absurd, but she was actually working on the Knights of the Old Republic remake, but she got fired from that project. She is no longer affiliated with it, and guess what company she went to? Wizards of the Coasts, and they are a company at this point that cannot be saved. So while I could sit here and say that, oh, maybe this rumor isn't true, I believe it genuinely 100%, and I do not think that we could sit here and talk about how WotC shouldn't be hiring these people because it's a wrong move, because they've already made a million wrong moves. I have been talking about situations like this over the past year where they've removed things like half races and even druids and witches, but now the Monster Manual 2025 is removing orcs and editing lich terminology to be more politically correct towards Jews. So basically everything that made their games special or unique in the first place, the new activists working at this company are finding all of that too offensive, and they're telling them, no, you have to change all of this, we have to be more politically correct, which is absolutely insane. And these are just over the past year. Never mind going back. I mean, again, I've talked a lot about WotC. More Men Emasculated, the Dungeons and Dragons movie, is woke garbage. D&D, the most racist game. All legacy content would be edited for modern audiences. This was only a year ago. D&D designer attacks games creators, called them ignorant white dudes. We have seen them losing hundreds of millions of dollars, them gunning Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering after layoffs, tabletop gaming being destroyed, Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder fix problematic content. That was 3 years ago that I talked about that. And honestly, it is just so sad to see because I know so many people have so much love and nostalgia for Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast and all of their games, but they are a company that cannot be saved. And I hate saying that because I am somebody who believes if we do not give companies a chance to change, they will not change. It's like with BioWare. They might have created Anthem and Andromeda and Veilguard, which were awful, but I still want to see what they're creating with the next Mass Effect because it is a bit of a different team. They are going in a different direction. Hopefully, they'll actually listen to us. And sure, if we instantly say we're going to boycott it, then why would they try to turn things around and fix it and make it a really great experience? I know BioWare is a bit of a special case because we have had over a decade of failures, but I still do try to give companies like a little bit of wiggle room to show us information and teasers and trailers that get us excited and then say, okay, maybe they actually have turned things around. But Wizards of the Coast is one of the few companies I do not think could be changed, even if they fired 95% of the people that they currently have working there, because they would have to fire all of these activists. They would have to revert all of the changes they have made, all of the retcons that they've done over the past decade. They would have to completely ignore entire sets of cards and rules that they've changed, and I just do not think that it is possible at this point, and that does suck to say, but they have put themselves into this situation where not a lot of people like them, not a lot of people trust them, and the wokies can keep Wizards of the Coast, and I don't give a fuck if someone like Sam Maggs goes and works there. I don't care if Corrine Busche goes and works there because nothing they could create could be good, and I would rather have all of these lunatics working at one company than working at 5 different ones or 10 different ones. I would rather know all of them are at Wizards of the Coast making garbage instead of potentially infiltrating other ranks of other legendary studios. Like, imagine if a Corrine Busche got hired at somewhere like a From Software. I know that it's not quite the same because it's a Japanese company, but just imagine your favorite franchise and your favorite studio, and then a Corrine Busche working there. That would be the worst case scenario. So obviously, again, take this all with a grain of salt. Maybe this isn't true, but I definitely could believe it, and it wouldn't be shocking if Wizards of the Coast at this point in time was trying to hide this until the BioWare and Veilguard backlash kind of dies down, and Smash JT even brings this up, saying Bush's hiring at Skeleton Key seems to have been deliberately kept under wraps, most likely to avoid backlash from the gaming community. I think that in like 6 months it will be announced whenever they get closer to the release of this upcoming game, because a lot of the Veilguard backlash would have died down by that point. But if they just announced it right now, they would basically be putting an instant target on their backs until it came out, hoping any memory of him would just fade into the abyss. And Wizards of the Coast is no stranger to controversy, as its mishandling of D&D and MTG over the past few years has already put them in hot water with a lot of longtime fans of the series. So yes, we do not have a lot of solid information on this at this point in time, but it definitely does seem real. I definitely do believe it, and there is nothing that Wizards of the Coast could do at this point that would surprise me, and nothing they do should surprise you either. So maybe Corrine Busche is working with WotC. At least we've got some of the activists bunched together instead of going and infiltrating all of these other companies. But for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.